The galaxy was wide and quiet, filled with endless stars that burned like silver fires. Among them moved the fleet of the Zereth Union, a strong civilization that believed itself secure in its part of space. Their ships were sharp, with wings of steel and glowing engines that cut through the darkness. The Zereth traveled in perfect order, scanning for trespassers, as they often did on long patrols. Commander Reiner sat in the tall chair of the flagship bridge, his eyes fixed on the glowing screen before him. His crew worked calmly, their scaled hands moving across the panels. The silence was broken when a young officer spoke in a sharp tone. "Commander, a signal. An unknown object ahead, near the forbidden zone." Reiner leaned forward. "Show it." The screen shifted. At first, it showed nothing but stars. Then, slowly, a shadow appeared in the distance. It was a ship, dark and silent, without the usual signals that all vessels broadcast. No trademark, no union mark, no known pattern. Just a large shape drifting in space. Reiner narrowed his eyes. "Is it a trader ship, hiding from patrols?" The officer shook his head. "Too large. The hull is massive. The scans cannot read it clearly. The surface reflects our beams. I do not understand." The bridge filled with a heavy silence. The Zereth Union had met many traders, pirates, and even hostile empires, but never a vessel that could resist their scans. Ships always gave signs, heat, life, or energy, but this one gave nothing. "Run a full scan," Reiner ordered. The beams stretched out from the Zereth ships, invisible but strong. They struck the strange vessel and returned broken signals. For a moment, the screens filled with static, then lines of confusing data. The science officer's voice shook. "Commander, this vessel is not a trader. It is a warship. Its size is greater than any ship we know. The hull is thick, the weapons are hidden under layers of metal. But the strangest thing is, it is silent. No heat from engines, no movement, no crew life detected." The words spread fear through the bridge. A warship that did not breathe, did not move, and yet drifted like a shadow in space. Reiner spoke with a low, calm voice. "Is it abandoned?" "Perhaps," said the officer. "But the design is unlike anything in our records. Its shape is blocky, not curved like ours. Built for strength, not beauty. Whoever made this cared only for survival." The bridge crew looked at one another. The Zereth Union had strong ships, but they believed in balance, speed, energy flow, and design. This warship looked like a fortress, as if built by hands that expected endless attack. A second officer added, "The surface carries marks of battle. Scars, burns, and broken edges. Yet it still holds together. It has survived wars that should have broken it apart." Reiner stood and walked closer to the screen. He stared at the silent vessel, floating in the darkness like a sleeping beast. "And yet it moves through our space. How did it come here?" The officers had no answer. The silence stretched, heavy with unease. At last, one brave voice said, "Commander, we should leave. This is not for us. If the builders return, we may face danger." Another voice rose quickly. "No. If we leave without learning, we will look weak. If another empire finds this first, they may gain its secrets. We must capture it." The bridge fell into debate. Some wanted to flee and warn the Union Council. Others wanted to hold position and study it further. Reiner raised his hand, and the voices stopped. "We are Zereth. We do not run from shadows. If this is a weapon, we must know. If it is empty, we must claim it before others do. Send the drones closer. Scan every layer. I want answers." The crew obeyed, sending small mechanical scouts toward the silent warship. They drifted across the darkness and reached the surface of the vessel. Their lights shone on the metal, revealing dents and scars from old battles. They tapped the hull and sent back vibrations. The sound was heavy, as if the entire vessel was built of dense, unbreakable steel. Suddenly, one drone signal cut off. Then another. The screens went black. "Commander, something is interfering. The vessel is not as empty as it seems." Reiner kept his voice steady, but inside he felt the same fear as his crew. Something about the ship felt wrong. It was not only silent. It was waiting. The warship floated without sound, yet its dark hull seemed alive. The stars around it looked smaller, weaker, as if the vessel swallowed light itself. Reiner turned to his crew. "Hold position. Do not fire. Do not approach further. We will watch. We will learn." The bridge quieted again. The alien warship drifted before them, a mystery in the endless night. The Zereth Union had thought themselves strong, but now they stood before something older, something built with a purpose they could not yet see. And though no voice came, every officer felt the same truth rising inside: this was not a normal warship. It belonged to a species that had seen many wars and had survived them all. The Zereth ships held their breath in the silent dark, as the unknown vessel loomed larger on their screens, waiting for the moment to reveal itself. The dark vessel floated like a shadow among the stars, and the Zereth fleet kept their distance. On the bridge of the flagship, Commander Reiner watched the screens with steady eyes. His crew worked with tense silence, their tails curling tight, their scaled fingers moving quickly over the glowing panels. "Report," Reiner ordered. The science officer bowed his head. "Commander, our scans are fighting the surface. The hull is covered in heavy layers of alloy. Each layer blocks our beams. We are getting only fragments of data." "Fragments are enough," Reiner said. "Tell me what you see." The officer's eyes flickered as he read the data. His voice was slow, as if he feared the words. "The vessel carries weapons. Many weapons. I see large cannons, massive barrels that stretch across the sides of the hull. Beneath them are tubes for launching torpedoes. There are shield emitters placed not in pairs, but in dozens. The numbers are beyond anything we have built. Commander, this is not a single warship. This is an army inside one ship." A quiet gasp spread across the bridge. No ship of the Zereth carried such firepower. The Union had fleets, but never had one vessel held enough strength to face an entire navy. Another officer leaned forward, his voice shaking. "How can such a thing exist? No empire builds like this. No empire dares to put so much power into one vessel." Reiner's eyes did not leave the shadow on the screen. "Whoever built it, they were not afraid. They built a fortress, not a ship." The young officer at the communications desk lifted his head. "Commander, I do not understand one thing. A ship of this size should burn with energy. It should glow with heat. But this vessel is cold. No core power, no drive signal, no life." The bridge grew cold with fear. "Empty," someone whispered. "It is empty." But Reiner was not sure. He had seen derelicts before, ships left behind after battles. They drifted like bones in space. This one was different. It was too perfect, too complete. It was quiet, yes, but silence could hide strength. "Commander," said the second officer, "if it is abandoned, then we must take it. Imagine the Union controlling such a fortress. No one would dare challenge us." Others nodded quickly, eager to believe it was only an empty shell. Yet the science officer shook his head. "It is dangerous to assume. My readings show patterns inside the hull, strange compartments, thickly shielded. They block even our strongest beams. We do not know what rests within." Reiner listened. He felt the weight of the decision pressing down on him. Fear whispered in his mind, but so did ambition. If they claimed this vessel, the council would call him hero. If they failed, they might all vanish into the dark. He raised his voice. Send more drones. Not to touch, only to scan from distance. I want more detail before we act. The drones were small, fast, and silent. They flew toward the vessel and circled it like tiny insects around a sleeping beast. Their sensors painted pictures across the screens. Layer after layer of metal was revealed. Thick walls wrapped around the inner chambers. The surface showed scars, deep burns from old battles, jagged holes sealed with crude patches. Yet the ship remained whole. This vessel has seen war, the science officer said. It has fought, it has burned, but it did not fall. Commander, I cannot believe such a thing was made by any empire we know. The builders had no fear of cost. They built only for survival. Another image came to the screen. It showed a long corridor inside the ship, broken open by damage. The walls were heavy steel, painted with strange marks. The crew stared at the symbols. They were not Zereth script, nor the writing of any empire in Union records. The communications officer whispered, "These marks, they look like words. A language we do not know." For the first time, Reiner felt a chill deeper than fear. A language unknown, a ship unlike any in their records, weapons beyond reason. It was not abandoned. It was alien. The young officer at the front turned to Reiner, his eyes wide. "Commander, should we retreat? If this belongs to another race, a hidden race, then we may be breaking into something far beyond us." Another voice rose quickly. "Retreat? No, we cannot. If others find it, we lose everything. This is our chance to rise above the other empires. We must claim it." The bridge filled with voices again, half urging caution, half demanding boldness. Reiner raised his hand, and silence returned. He spoke firmly. "We will not retreat. But we will not rush either. This ship is a fortress, silent but alive in its own way. If we are careless, we may wake something we cannot control. We will watch. We will learn. Only then will we act." The crew bowed their heads, trusting his command. On the screen, the silent fortress floated still, scarred yet unbroken, carrying its hidden secrets. The Zereth ships circled carefully, like hunters around a prey too dangerous to strike. And though no sound came from it, every officer on the bridge felt the same heavy truth: this vessel was not a relic. It was a warning, waiting to be understood. The Zereth fleet held its line in the cold silence of space. The strange vessel floated before them like a dark mountain, its vast body swallowing the light of the nearby stars. Drones circled it carefully, their small lights tracing along the scarred metal, but they found no entrance, no signal, no proof of life. On the bridge of the flagship, Commander Reiner stood tall. His crew waited, nervous yet curious. Every officer knew that if they captured this vessel, the Union would change forever. But unease grew with every moment of silence from the strange ship. "Commander," the science officer said, his voice uneasy, "I detect faint power inside. It is small, buried deep, but it is there. This vessel is not truly dead." The words struck the crew like a cold wind. "Explain," Reiner demanded. "Buried signals, like the beating of a heart," the officer answered. "It may be some kind of core or control system, still alive though hidden." Reiner frowned. He could feel the fear rising among his officers. Yet retreat was not in his nature. He gave a calm order. "Send a boarding craft. Let us see what rests inside." A murmur spread through the bridge, but the order was obeyed. A small vessel detached from the fleet and moved toward the silent warship. Its lights shone across the hull, searching for an entry point. The moment it touched the vessel's surface, everything changed. The silent warship trembled. For the first time, light spread across its body. Dim lines glowed along the metal, as if veins of fire awoke from a long sleep. The Zereth crews gasped. The scanners lit with sudden energy spikes. The warship was alive. Power surge detected, the science officer cried. It is waking. Commander, this ship is not abandoned. It is waiting. The drones fell dead, their signals cut off. The boarding craft lost power, drifting helpless near the surface. On the flagship, alarms rang as energy waves pushed through the fleet. Some smaller ships shuddered, their engines flickering. And then came the voice. It rolled across every channel, strong and deep, not spoken in Zirith tongue yet carried by a translation no one understood. It was calm, steady, and heavy with warning. You have trespassed upon a human vessel. The bridge fell silent. Every officer froze. The word was strange, sharp, and new. Human, one officer whispered, tasting the sound. What is that? I have never heard of such a race. The voice returned, echoing with power. You stand before the shield of humanity. Leave, or be judged. Reiner's chest tightened. His people had mapped many stars, fought pirates, traded with distant empires, but never had they heard of humans. To face a race unknown, yet so strong that even their abandoned warship could silence fleets, filled him with dread. Commander, the communications officer said, his scales pale with fear, this is no ordinary ship. It holds a mind. It speaks with intent. Reiner's eyes burned with both fear and respect. A mind, or perhaps a memory. He lifted his chin. We cannot retreat now. If these humans exist, we must know them. The voice did not fade. It grew louder, as if the entire warship spoke as one. You see weapons. You see armor. You see scars. These are the marks of survival. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity does not forget. Images suddenly filled the screens of every Zirith ship. Not words, not data, but visions. They came like a storm. The crew saw burning cities under strange skies. They saw humans standing tall against towering machines, wielding crude weapons yet refusing to fall. They saw fleets of human ships, smaller and weaker than their enemies, yet fighting with such fury that even great empires crumbled before them. One officer trembled as he whispered, they fought giants. They fought endless wars. And they lived. The visions changed again. They showed humans building homes on barren worlds with red skies and black winds. They showed children playing under domes of glass, laughing even as storms raged outside. They showed humans standing together, hands linked, never giving up. The Zirith crew stared in awe and fear. They had seen many races, many empires, but never a species that carried such fire in their spirit. Reiner's voice was low but steady. This vessel carries not only weapons. It carries history. It carries the heart of a people. The voice of the warship spoke once more, final and clear. If you seek war, you will find it. If you seek peace, you must prove your strength. Humanity respects only those who endure. The light across the warship dimmed, but the vessel remained alive. Its silent presence pressed down on the Zirith fleet like a weight too great to bear. On the bridge, none spoke for a long moment. Then one officer said what all were thinking. Commander, this single ship holds the power of a fleet. If the humans themselves return, what will they bring? Reiner did not answer. His eyes stayed on the warship. He knew this was no ordinary discovery. This was the awakening of a legend. The Zirith Union had thought themselves strong, but now they had met a shadow of a race that no one knew, a race whose name alone carried fear. Human. The warship drifted in the silence of space, its black surface alive with faint glowing lines. The Zirith fleet kept their distance, shaken by the voice that had thundered across every channel. The word human still echoed in their minds, heavy and strange. On the flagship, Commander Reiner stood tall while his officers whispered among themselves. The bridge was filled with unease. None of them had expected such power to awaken from what they thought was an abandoned vessel. Then the lights across the warship brightened again. A beam of soft energy spread outward, not a weapon but a signal. It touched the screens of the Zereth ships, filling them with images once more. "Commander," the science officer said quickly, "the vessel is sending something. Not an attack. A transmission." "Show it," Reiner commanded. The screen before him flickered, and then pictures appeared. They were not simple maps or numbers but visions of worlds far away. The first image showed a planet with blue oceans and green lands. Towers of stone and metal rose toward the sky, and strange figures moved across the surface. They were tall, two-legged, with faces that carried both strength and sorrow. The voice of the warship echoed once more. "This is Earth. The cradle of humanity." Gasps spread across the bridge. The Zereth had studied many maps, many records of worlds, but they had never heard this name. Earth was new to them, yet the sight of it filled the crew with awe. The image shifted. Now came visions of fire. Great battles filled the screen. Human armies clashed against each other with weapons of fire and steel. The ground shook with explosions, the skies burned with smoke, yet the humans never stopped fighting. They fell, but they rose again. They lost, but they returned stronger. The communications officer whispered, "They fight without fear. They fight even when there is no hope." The next vision showed human ships lifting from their world into the black sky. They were not graceful like Zereth vessels. They were heavy, blocky, and filled with scars of struggle. Yet they flew, crossing the void between stars. The warship's voice spoke calmly. "Humanity does not wait for easy paths. Where the sky is closed, we open it. Where the land is broken, we build upon it. Where death surrounds us, we endure." The Zereth crew stared in silence as more visions unfolded. They saw humans on barren planets where storms of sand cut across the ground. They built shelters of stone and steel, raised crops under domes of glass, and brought life where no life should grow. They saw humans in frozen worlds, walking through snow with fire in their hands, carving homes into the ice, singing songs to keep their spirit alive. They saw humans fighting against enemies greater than themselves. Giant warships surrounded their fleets, yet the humans stood firm, striking with cunning and unity. Even when torn apart, they refused to yield. One officer clenched his claws. "They should have perished 1,000 times. Yet they live. How can such a race exist?" Reiner watched quietly. His heart was heavy, but his mind was clear. This was not just a warning. This was a history. The warship was showing them the truth of its builders. Another vision filled the screen. A human stood alone on a battlefield of fire. His armor was broken, his weapon nearly destroyed, yet he faced an enemy far larger than himself. Around him lay ruins, yet his eyes burned with defiance. He raised his weapon and charged forward. The warship's voice spoke again. "Humanity does not bow. We rise, we resist, we remember." The bridge was silent. The images ended, but the feeling remained. Every officer felt the same weight pressing down on their hearts. The science officer finally broke the silence. "Commander, this is no simple vessel. It is an archive. It carries the memory of an entire people. These humans are not gone. They live somewhere, perhaps hidden, perhaps waiting. This ship is their message to us." Reiner nodded slowly. He understood now. The warship was more than steel and weapons. It was a teacher, a storyteller, a guardian of a legacy carved in battle and survival. But one question still burned in his mind. Why show us this? Why reveal their history to strangers? As if in answer, the voice returned. "Those who find this vessel must know what humanity is. To face us, you must understand. To stand beside us, you must endure." The lights dimmed again, but the warship did not fall silent completely. It pulsed like a living heart, waiting for what came next. On the bridge, fear and wonder mixed within the crew. Some looked at the ship with respect, others with dread. None could forget the images they had seen. Reiner turned from the screen and faced his officers. His voice was calm but firm. This is no relic to be captured. This is no tool to be stolen. This is a shadow of something greater. If the humans themselves return, the galaxy will tremble. The crew lowered their heads. They understood. The Zereth Union was strong, but now they had seen a truth that humbled them. Somewhere beyond the stars lived a race that fought storms, fires, and endless wars, and yet refused to fall. And now, their silent fortress floated before them, guarding its secrets, waiting to see what the Zereth would choose. The bridge of the Zereth flagship was filled with silence. The crew stared at the screens, still haunted by the visions of human history. The warship before them floated calmly, its hull scarred yet unbroken, its lights glowing faintly like the eyes of a watchful guardian. Commander Reiner stood at the center, his tail coiled tight, his mind heavy. He had seen many races, many fleets, but never had he felt such weight from a single vessel. It was more than a ship. It was a trial. Suddenly, the warship's voice echoed once more. Calm, steady, unshaken. If you seek war, you will find it. If you seek peace, you must prove your strength. Humanity respects only those who endure. The words rolled through the fleet like thunder. The officers looked at one another, fear and doubt clear in their eyes. The science officer spoke first. Commander, this is a challenge. The vessel is testing us. If we fail, we may be destroyed. Another officer shouted quickly, then let us retreat. We are not ready for this. To stay is to risk the Union fleet. But a stronger voice rose from the weapons officer. No. If we retreat, we show weakness. And if humans truly exist, they will see us as prey. Better to face the trial than to flee in shame. The bridge filled with debate. Some wanted to run, others to fight, and a few believed they must endure whatever test awaited them. The tension grew heavy until Reiner lifted his hand. We are Zereth, he said firmly. We do not run from shadows. This vessel carries the spirit of a people that survived countless wars. To meet them, we must show our courage. We will not retreat. The crew fell silent, their fear tempered by his steady voice. The warship pulsed again. Its lights brightened, and waves of energy rippled outward. Not beams of fire, not weapons of destruction, but pure force that pressed against the Zereth fleet. Alarms rang as ships trembled under the invisible storm. Panels sparked, engines flickered, and shields strained. Smaller vessels tilted, their crews fighting to keep balance. The science officer cried out, "It is not an attack. It is a trial of endurance. The energy is strong but controlled. It pushes us, but it does not kill." Reiner's voice was calm. "Hold formation. No ship will flee. We will stand together." The fleet held its line. The energy waves grew stronger, shaking the hulls, rattling the crews, filling the air with static hums. One ship drifted off course, but the others pulled it back into formation. Another ship's shields flickered, but its crew pushed power from reserves to keep them alive. Minutes felt like hours. The storm pressed harder, as if the warship sought to break their spirit. On the bridge, officers sweated, their hands gripping the panels tightly. Fear whispered in every mind, but Reiner's voice carried through. "Stand firm. This is not death. This is judgment. Do not give it the pleasure of seeing us fall." The waves reached their peak. The fleet shook as if caught in the heart of a star. But the Zereth did not retreat. Their ships held the line, battered yet unbroken. Then, as suddenly as it began, the energy storm faded. The lights across the warship dimmed, leaving only the quiet pulse of its glowing lines. The voice returned, calm and clear. "You have faced fear and did not flee. You may stand among us." Relief spread through the bridge. The crew exhaled as if freed from a great weight. Some lowered their heads in respect, others whispered prayers of thanks. The science officer's voice was soft. "Commander, it accepted us. It recognized our endurance." Reiner nodded slowly. This trial was not about weapons. It was about courage. Humanity values strength of spirit, not only power of arms. We have passed their test, but this is only the beginning. As if answering him, the warship released a final signal. A beam of light shot across the stars, marking a path into deep space. It was not random. It was deliberate, coordinates written into the very fabric of the transmission. "Coordinates," the communications officer said. "It is showing us a way forward. A place unknown." The crew stared at the glowing path. Some felt excitement, others dread. Where would it lead? To more vessels? To humans themselves? To allies, or to enemies greater than anything they had faced? Reiner's eyes burned with determination. "Wherever it leads, we will follow. We have seen their history, we have faced their trial. Now we must see what lies beyond." The warship grew silent again, drifting like a fortress in the void. It did not attack, it did not move. It simply waited, its role complete. The Zereth fleet turned slowly, aligning with the path of light. Engines hummed, shields steadied, and crews prepared themselves for the unknown. On the flagship bridge, Reiner stood tall, his voice strong. "We have faced the storm and endured. Now we walk the path given to us. Let the Union remember this day, for it is the day we met humanity." And with that, the fleet moved forward, carrying both fear and hope into the uncharted dark. The Zereth fleet moved cautiously along the path of light sent by the human warship. The stars stretched endlessly around them, black and silent, but the memory of the trial weighed on every officer. Their ships had survived the energy storm, but they had learned that humanity tested not only strength but spirit. Commander Reiner stood at the center of the flagship bridge, his gaze fixed on the coordinates. His crew worked quietly, every hand steady despite the unease in their hearts. None could forget the warning from the warship: humanity respects only those who endure. Suddenly, the screens flickered. The warship had followed them, appearing behind the fleet like a dark shadow. Its lights pulsed rhythmically, sending waves of energy into the surrounding space. Science Officer Kiran spoke first, her voice tense. "Commander, it is preparing another trial. This one is stronger than before. The energy waves are targeted at our formation. They will test our endurance and coordination." Reiner nodded, his tail curling tightly around his leg. "Hold formation. No ship will fall behind. Remember the lesson we learned. Fear is natural, but it must not break us." The first wave struck like a hammer. Engines shuddered, shields sparked, and alarms blared across the fleet. Every ship rocked under the invisible force. Some smaller vessels tilted dangerously, but crew members pushed power to engines and shields with perfect timing. "Focus on control, not fear," Reiner shouted. "We endure as one." The second wave hit harder. It pulsed like a living storm, pressing against every ship in the fleet. Lights flickered, panels glowed with stress, and energy conduits hummed as they struggled to hold the ships together. One officer cried, "Commander, a ship near the rear. It is faltering." Reiner did not hesitate. "Support it. Redistribute power. Keep the formation." The fleet responded. Engines roared, shields shimmered, and slowly, the faltering vessel regained stability. The Zereth moved like a single organism, each crew working in perfect harmony. The warship's voice broke through the hum of alarms. Calm, steady, yet heavy with expectation. "You endure fear. You face forces beyond your understanding. Yet you do not flee. This is courage. This is recognition. Yet one more trial remains." The final wave was unlike the others. It was not just energy. It was a test of unity and decision. The fleet felt a subtle shift in space itself, as if currents of pressure moved through their formation, demanding perfect coordination. Ships had to adjust instantly, engines balanced with shields, every move precise. One wrong decision could break the line. Reiner barked orders with clarity and confidence. Shift to the left. Compensate for the drift. Hold shields steady. The fleet responded, each ship moving in harmony with the others. Sparks flew, panels strained, but no one fled. No one hesitated. The Zereth endured, showing that courage was not only facing danger but doing so together. Minutes passed. The waves of pressure lessened. The lights across the warship dimmed. The pulse slowed. For the first time, silence returned, though heavier than before. The voice spoke one last time. You have faced fear and did not flee. You have endured trials of power, of coordination, of spirit. You may stand among us. Relief spread across the fleet. Officers exhaled, their claws and scales trembling from the strain. The crew looked at one another, proud and exhausted. The fleet had endured the trial together. The science officer spoke softly, awe in her voice. Commander, it has recognized us. Not as enemies, not as intruders, but as worthy of respect. Reiner nodded. It tested us because humanity values strength of spirit above all. Power alone is not enough. Only those who endure together may stand with them. The warship's pulse grew calmer, its lights dimming to a gentle glow. A beam of energy shot forward, carrying coordinates farther into uncharted space. It was not random, it was a path, deliberate and precise. Coordinates, the communications officer said, voice filled with reverence. It is guiding us forward. The crew stared at the glowing path. Questions swirled in their minds. What waited at the end? Humans themselves? Or perhaps a challenge even greater than the trials they had faced? Reiner's gaze remained steady. We have passed the trials of courage and endurance. Now we follow their guidance. Let us walk the path given to us and see what lies ahead. The fleet aligned with the beam of light. Engines roared, shields stabilized, and the ships moved forward, deeper into the unknown. Each officer knew that humanity had left a mark on them, not through weapons, but through the test of spirit and will. On the flagship bridge, Reiner spoke quietly. We have faced the storm and emerged unbroken. Humanity has shown us what strength truly means. Now we step into the dark, prepared for whatever waits. The warship followed silently, a guardian and teacher, watching as the Zereth fleet moved forward. Its trials were over, but its presence remained, a reminder that the galaxy held powers and peoples far beyond what they had known. The stars stretched endlessly before them. Ahead lay mystery, challenge, and perhaps, the chance to meet the humans themselves. The Zereth fleet pressed onward, their courage tested, their unity proven, and their respect for humanity forever engraved in their hearts. The Zereth fleet moved steadily along the glowing path that the human warship had sent. Silence filled space, heavy with awe and tension. Every officer aboard the flagship remembered the trials they had faced, the energy storms, the pressure waves, and the lessons of endurance. Now, they followed a path deeper into the unknown, guided by the remnants of a species they barely understood. Commander Reiner stood at the center of the bridge, watching the dark stars stretch endlessly before them. His crew moved in quiet harmony, each hand steady on panels, each mind alert. Though fear lingered, a sense of respect had taken root in their hearts. They had survived the trials, and the lessons of humanity burned brightly in their minds. Commander, the science officer said softly, these coordinates lead far beyond mapped space. Nothing in Union records exists here. We are approaching the unknown. Reiner nodded. Then we prepare for discovery. Keep the fleet alert. Stay ready for anything, but remember the lessons we have learned. Fear is natural, but it must not break us. The warship moved alongside the fleet, silent but present. Its lights pulsed like a heartbeat, steady and deliberate. Though it did not communicate, the Zirith felt its guidance. Every wave of energy and every flicker of light had been a lesson in courage and unity. Now, its silence spoke of trust and expectation. Minutes passed in quiet vigilance. Then, sensors detected distant shapes ahead. Massive structures floated in space, remnants of an unknown civilization, long abandoned yet intact. The fleet slowed, awed by the sight. The warship's presence seemed to signal approval, as if it acknowledged their courage and allowed them to witness what lay ahead. One officer whispered, "Commander, these structures, they are ancient. Some may have survived thousands of years." Reiner's eyes glimmered with curiosity. "They are history. Humanity carries the memory of survival, and these may be part of it. Watch closely. Learn what we can without disturbing it." As the fleet drew closer, images appeared on the warship's screens. They were visions again, showing humans exploring these ancient structures, studying the ruins, learning from them. Humans adapted to every environment, turning challenges into opportunities, building tools and ships from what others had discarded. They survived where others perished. The communications officer spoke quietly. "This is more than history. It is proof of their endurance. They respect knowledge, courage, and spirit. Their victories are not just over enemies, but over the universe itself." Reiner nodded slowly. "We have seen their battles, their struggles, their endurance. Now we see their wisdom. This is why they test others. Only those who endure and respect strength may stand beside them." The warship pulsed again, and a beam of light traced a path between the ancient structures. It was a message, not of words, but of guidance. Follow, learn, endure. The Zirith fleet aligned itself with the beam, moving cautiously through the silent ruins. The fleet began to understand the meaning of humanity. Power alone did not define them. Their strength came from courage, endurance, and the ability to rise after every defeat. The Zirith realized that the humans they had glimpsed were not conquerors but survivors, teachers of resilience in a universe full of danger. Reiner turned to his crew. "We have walked their path and faced their trials. We have endured together. Remember this. Humanity is not merely strong. It is wise, it is patient, and it respects those who can endure the impossible. Let this knowledge guide us in all our journeys." As they continued, the warship began to fade into the darkness behind them. It did not vanish entirely but became a distant pulse in the void. Its role as teacher and guardian was complete. It had shown the fleet what humans were, what they had achieved, and what they valued above all: endurance, courage, and unity. The crew of the Zirith flagship watched in silence. Each officer felt a change within. They had met a shadow of a race that no one had seen, yet whose presence would now influence the Union forever. Fear had been replaced by respect, uncertainty by understanding. The communications officer spoke again, voice trembling with awe. "Commander, the humans themselves may never come, yet their legend has begun. Even without seeing them, the galaxy will know of their power and spirit." Reiner looked at the stars ahead. "Legends are born from courage, not merely from victories. Humanity has shown us that. Today, we are witnesses to the beginning of something greater. Their story will spread, and all who hear it will remember. The name human will be one of respect, of fear, and of hope." The fleet pressed onward into the uncharted darkness, the pulse of the human warship faint but steady behind them. The path ahead was unknown, full of mysteries, dangers, and wonders. Yet the Zirith were no longer afraid. They had endured the trials of power and spirit, and they carried the lessons of humanity in their hearts. The stars stretched endlessly before them, black and bright. Somewhere beyond, humans waited, unseen but remembered. The galaxy had witnessed a new legend, the strength of a species that survived, endured, and inspired fear and respect in all who encountered it. Commander Reiner stood tall, feeling the weight and honor of the moment. He spoke quietly to his crew. "We have faced the shadow of humanity. We have endured their trial. The galaxy will tremble at their name, and we will tell the story of what we have seen. Humanity's legacy has begun, and we are part of it." The fleet moved forward, leaving the silent fortress behind. In the hearts of every Zeroth, a new understanding had taken root. The humans had taught them that strength was more than firepower. It was courage, endurance, and the unyielding will to survive. And in the endless dark of space, the legend of humanity had begun.